Hi, all. Welcome to part 3 of Python OOPS tutorial. In this video tutorial, we're going to deal with what are regular methods, what are class methods, what are class methods as alternate constructors, and what are static methods, right? So let's see how methods are actually used in classes, right? Now, as we've seen in the previous two sessions, a regular method in classes would have self, which means the instance being passed as the first argument, right? Now observe the difference in a class method. Now I've already jotted down the class method with a decorator, right? So any class method in Python has to be represented by a decorator here, right? As in this at symbol and the class method. So this is a decorator. Now, here I define a class method and setting the variable to amount. Now let's see how this works. So with the help of a class method, the variable will be applied globally to all instances. It will be the same. Any class variable would always have a global value with respect to any instance. So let's have a look at this, right? How it works. Now let's look at this class method only. I will talk about this second class method later. So let's first start looking at this class method, right? So if I need to call a class method, I have to use the class name, right? So let's see how I do that, right? Let me just comment this out since I don't require this at this point in time. So have a look carefully here. Now I'm trying to call raise underscore amount. Remember, and also remember one thing, CLS, right? All class methods, like all instance methods in a class, have the first argument as self. All class methods have the first argument as CLS. So, and all a class method can either be called by an instance or it can be called by the class. But always, I've never seen anyone, why do you want to call a class method with an instance? It is always correct to call a class method with a class name. So let's see, I'm calling this method, right? I'm going to call this method now. Let's see how I'm going to call this. Okay. So first, let me just create one instance, right? So we have all this. I'm just initializing an instance. Okay, and now I'm going to just call a class method. As I said, a class method should be called by the class name, and the name of the class is employee. So I put an employee here, followed by the class method name here. So which I would say raise. It's already coming here, so I can just select that raise underscore amount 1, and I just have to pass an argument. Now look at this. Similarly to instance methods where self, the instance name, was being passed as the argument, in class methods automatically the class name would be passed into this value. Into this value, right? So you don't have to explicitly pass the class name into a class method. Now if I just try to print the value, you will get the variable raise amount will be equal to 5. So let's see how that happens. So you can just do a emp1 dot raise underscore amount, or you can also access the variable through the class name dot raise. Let's print those values, right? So let's print those values and see how it works. Print and print, right? And let's see how that works. Module 1. Okay, so I didn't pass the argument, so I had to initialize this with the arguments. I didn't create the instance properly, right? So I would just say Bharat, comma Kohli, comma 50, Now let's try to run the script. So because when I was trying to initialize my instance, I did not pass the correct parameters and it did not initialize here properly. Now it should initialize properly. There you go. So you can see that now the variable is set to 5 because I passed in 5. So what happened is amount came to 5 here, and the CLS, the raise amount variable, turned 5 globally. So this is one case where I can use a class method, right? That's one way. Now let's look at another way where class methods, right? Let's discuss this point. Now we finished understanding what are class methods, and regular methods we've already discussed in previous sessions. It's just nothing but self is being passed as an argument. In class methods, CLS is being passed as an argument, right? Now class methods as alternate constructors, right? So what do we mean by class methods as alternate constructors? Now let's take this method as I mentioned previously. Let's try to understand this method. Now I have a string here which I need to split it, right? So that I can get these parameters, right? Automatically, first name, last name, and salary. So here I have sometimes a string and which I would like to split it into first name, last name, and the salary values, right? So let's see how I can initialize an instance with the class method, right? So let's look at that. So all I have to do here is, let's remove this. So let's remove all of this stuff. And let's have a look carefully, right? So I'm just calling the method split 1, and I'm just passing in the string name. So observe what exactly is happening here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating an instance and I'm calling the class method with the class name. So this is the class name and this is the class method, and I'm passing an argument of string here. So what happens here is by default, whenever you're calling the class method, the employee value is being put into this, so I don't have to explicitly specify that as mentioned previously. str and this string str1 Virat will be followed here, and you will get 3 variables, first, last, pay, and here I'm returning the class value. So in this way I have the initialization, so it will go ahead and see that I have all my initialization values and my instance is automatically initialized. So this is sometimes called as initialization of an instance with class methods, right? So for example, now I can just type an emp1 dot first, and let's see, you should get Virat. Let's see if you get that. Okay, I didn't do a print statement, so let's do a print. That's the reason why nothing got printed there. There you go. So that's pretty much it with respect to class methods as constructors. So remember, so on a holistic view, right, a class method is, you use class methods sometimes where you want the variables to be global and you want to change the variable globally to all instances. Similarly, methods, right, as alternate constructors, you need to make sure that the class method is returning the variables required to initialize a constructor. As in this case, we return first, last, and pay, which are required for initialization any instance. So that is the reason why I use the term class methods as alternate constructors, right? So that is class methods alternate constructors. Now what are static methods, right? And why? Static methods is nothing but similar to functions that we have been using in Python. Then why are they coming here? It's just that it is logically related. Static methods are nothing but it is just logically related to a class, and sometimes you have to use function, you have to use methods, right, which in a class which has no relation to the instance or something, right? So what are the advantages? It's just normal function, right? So you can just just say define, so def, and here CLS, in a static method you won't have any argument like CLS or self, right? So just say I will define display 1 and say print hi. Right? So anytime a static method, how is it useful, right? So the static method is shared by all instances, right? So what I mean by that is when an instance is trying to access a static method, the static method has a single point in location memory, and every instance is trying to access that location of memory. So in this way, the performance is increased. If it is not a static method, each instance would have to load its own method in memory, and the memory, the memory performance would, you would require more memory. With static methods, you just have the static method resides in a point in memory, and all instances connect to that point location in memory and access the method. However, if it is not a static method, each instance would import the method in memory. So in this way, if I have 100 instances, 100 instances would keep on importing that method. That is where static methods is very advantageous. That is why static methods is very advantageous, right? So that's pretty much why we use a static method. Now let's see how how do you call a static method, right? So let's say, since now it's part of a class, it's just like, you can just do a emp1 dot display1 and see how it works. Just do a fi. Okay, I'm sorry. So always remember that static methods are called using the class name, right? So static methods are always called using the class name. That's the reason why you got an error, because it was trying to pass the instance as an argument, right? Now you can just try it, it should work. Okay, let me see why we're getting an error here. Okay, I understood the reason, right? And we have to, define it as a static method here, right? So I had to put this decorator in here. So that's the reason why. Are you getting this error properly? Let's try to check it now. There you go. So that works pretty fine, right? So it's good that such issues keep occurring. So people who are listening to this video know exactly where's the issue. How do you troubleshoot things when they just come up rather than just typing everything, right? So now you understood exactly what exactly happened here. I had to declare any static method has to be declared with this decorator. Like class method was declared with this decorator, at static methods would have to be declared with this method, right? So that's how you use static methods. So remember, there are only three methods. One are methods where you're passing the instance self as the first argument, class methods where you're passing the class name as the argument. Static methods does not pass anything, does not pass instance. It's just a normal function, does not pass an instance or a class name as an argument. It's just a normal function, just that it is part of a class. And always static methods are accessed through a class name as here, as deployed here, right? So guys, thanks for watching this video. Please post in your valuable comments. I'm going to create a complete Python video series, and I'm also planning for a Hadoop series as well. So kindly subscribe to my channel to support us, and so that we can help a lot of poor students as well. And and I do a lot of charity work in the same. So guys, please give me a thumbs up for all my for all the videos. In case any improvements you want, please post your comments so that we can certainly improve that, right? So thanks all for watching this video. Have a great day.